Today's topic is...
breaking down the 16th Legion's design and lore.
Let the seas boil, let the stars fall. Though it takes the last drop of my blood, I will see the galaxy freed once more. And if I cannot save it from your failure, Father, then let the galaxy burn.
Inside voice Cal.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to WAYPN. I'm Cal.
And I'm Sunny.
Today we're going to be covering the 16th Legion, and with that we're going to be doing pre-heresy, post-heresy, and a redesign with them.
And within these segments, we'll be covering design breakdown and analysis, art, design versus lore, and final notes.
As well as what Sunny knows, if she knows anything at all.
And not particularly in that order.
Alright, Sunny, are you ready?
Yes.
Let's get to it.
Ooh, this is a white, black, and red color scheme, and hold on. Are those wolves on the shoulder pads?
Yes.
Can I see the full version of the shoulder pads?
Okay, here, take a look. Here's two different versions.
I knew it! It's the lunar wolves!
I guess it's time for
What Sunny knows.
Alright, Sunny, what do you know?
I know Horus. Horus is their lord in Primarch.
Okay, what else do you know?
I know that Horus is also eventually, obviously, he'll turn to chaos.
Yeah.
And then I think he is in charge of the Black Legion at one point. And then there was one time where he was teal and he was like the Sons of Horus or something.
Yep.
And he's like a tactical genius. But when it comes to the Legion, I have no idea what they're about or their story or how they came about.
Okay, so what do you know about Horus and how does that affect the...
I know that Horus is a good guy at the start, and then he becomes resentful of the Emperor because he was made War Master, and then after that, I don't know how things fall apart.
all right, sure. It is at this time that I should let both you and the audience know that I lied to them.
Well, what do we talk about?
We're not only doing pre- and post-heresy, we are also doing heresy. We're doing the Lunar Wolves, the Sons of Horus, and, of course, the Black Legion.
All right, it's going to be a long one, folks.
Yeah. This is our longest video ever.
And we thank you for spending your time with us. And if you'd like to see more videos from us, please consider becoming a member.
Back to your regularly scheduled programming.
Let's get to it.
All right, back to it. Here's your first Lunar Wolf.
So coming back to the colors, now that I'm taking a closer look at them, I wouldn't call it a pure white, but closer to a super pale gray, almost like ash.
Yes.
Right. And the type of black used here is actually quite important, Cal. It's a matte jet black. Okay? So you...
Hold up. Matte and jet black. Usually people use jet black to refer to gloss.
Gloss. But I don't know how to describe like that super light absorbing type of black as jet black.
Oh, okay. So hold up. You're talking about a black like...
Vanta black, I guess?
Yeah, like Vanta black.
Okay, we'll just call it Vanta black. So that's really important here because you are pairing a bright color with a reflective texture with an extremely light absorbing black. So that creates not only a contrast in color, but also a contrast of kind. Okay? From an aesthetic perspective, the super dark black creates bold outlines that break up the suit in a very definitive way. It creates a sense of extreme cleanliness and order, which when we take a look at it from a color psychology point of view, this super exaggerates a lot of black and white's profiles like finality, power, sophistication, clarity, purity, and seriousness. And because of that, the red accents are just completely drowned out.
Yeah, I was going to agree because when you said, oh, it's got red in the color scheme, I was like, wait, what?
In the eyes.
Yeah, no, it is there, but when we take a look at it, looking at it from the 3 feet rule, the eyes almost look black themselves.
Yeah, like you don't even notice it because of how stark this white and black contrast is.
Exactly.
And all that is what you focus on. You focus only on those crisp, clean, bold lines. So I think that the Lunar Wolves are a very meticulous and confident legion who have a modern approach to things. They are very efficient. They aren't necessarily against new ideas, but they will take the concepts that will maximize their output the most. They are maximizers, not satisfiers.
Ah, interesting. I should explain that maximizes, not satisfies thing. I think that comes from the relationship world where people are either maximizers, they try and get the most out of their partner, they look for the highest quality partner, or satisfies, they try and create the most robust relationship.
Yeah, so you might be compromising more often.
Yes, you might be compromising more often, but you're trying for a more harmonious relationship.
Yeah.
Whereas a maximizer is looking to get all they can. And if that means leaving a relationship, they will
do it. So that's the feeling I get from them.
Okay, alright, interesting. Before I go on, for the pedantic, yes, we know that black and white are shades. We're kind of a pain in the channel, but I think Sunny is using them in the proverbial context, and we're going to continue doing that throughout.
Yes.
Referring to black and white as colours.
And
same with greys and browns.
It just makes it easier as
well.
Yeah.
With that caveat out of the way, here's your next Lunar Wolf.
This is the same armor again as before, but with a plume. Not a big fan of how the white/pale gray here is a little yellowed and makes them feel dirty, but never mind. So judging the plume alone, I would say that this is a higher ranked official from the basic trooper.
Yeah.
But this time, there is a very interesting logo I am noticing on the knee. It's a portrait of a lady that is split in half. The crown on her head looks a lot like the moon that is in their Legion symbol. The white half of her face is shown as having her eyes closed, and the black half of her face shows her eye open and shining. The style of the portrait also looks very Greek, so putting 2 and 2 together, I'm guessing it's the goddess Artemis, who is the goddess of the moon and the hunt. And very on the nose there for the lunar wolves.
Well, it looks a lot more manly to me when I take a look at that face, but that might just be GW in general. They have trouble with female faces.
Well, if you take a closer look at the eye shape, I think it looks quite feminine.
Okay, alright.
Yeah.
But in that case, why isn't it Luna or Selene, the Greek and Roman goddesses of the moon?
Well, I just feel that from the style plus the way that... I mean, like, when we put the obvious together, lunar wolves, I know that Artemis as a goddess, she is also the goddess of the hunt, right? And wolves, what are they known for? For hunting.
Yeah, but I feel like if it's going to be the moon, why not Luna or... Selene.
Well, I guess it depends. Like, are they very, related to the moon or something as a legion?
Well, that would be a design versus lore part.
Exactly.
So, yeah. But I will say this. They are definitely not religious.
Okay, so then I have no idea what that symbol is actually meant to be because it seems very oddly specific.
Yeah. Okay, I think we're going too much into the weeds. Let's go on to the next template.
Okay, with this third guy, it's a bit hard to say because he looks like a standard trooper, but with an armor pattern update. Even the weapon is either a white or very reflective silver. It's hard to judge from this art style, but it doesn't have any notable symbols on him to derive what exactly his role might be on the field. So that's all I have to say about this guy. I mean his role beyond being a tactical marine or where he's from. Like,
yeah,
not
okay,
much
I'm following.
clues.
Yeah. Well, this is done in the classic art style, and I have to say, I really scoured as much as I could to find the Lunar Wolves things. In fact, I even went to the black books of the Horus Heresy to try and find things, and there was not much love in there. I looked through quite a few, but I couldn't find anything. So here is your final template in inverted commas,
quote unquote, yeah.
because it's actually an artwork.
Okay, I can imagine a Terminator like this inspiring awe on the field with his large frame and plume, and paired with the high contrast and clean color scheme we talked about earlier. You'd probably want to follow these guys' orders, just like the Ultramarines Terminator.
Yeah, very classic Terminator style is what you're basically saying.
Yes, correct. But some of the time, certain Terminators are very intimidating in the fear factor, but this is more like respect.
Oh, you're saying it has more of that sort of Roman-esque style with the Terminator. They look like the old Centurions.
Yes, correct. So, and also one more thing. I see that he's also sporting the Imperial Eagle on his belt. So is this them fighting during the Crusade with the Emperor?
More likely than not, this is an artistic flourish.
Oh, okay. Well, that's actually really interesting. We'll have to wait for the design versus lore bit.
Yeah, no, I'm going to say that I don't think that it's meant to be there, but it's good that you noticed it.
Okay.
Well, since I ran out of templates, should we move on to art? All right, Sunny, here is your first artwork.
Okay, Cal, you can't tell me that that wasn't the goddess Artemis because look what is on that one Space Marine's foot right there. It's a bow and arrow.
Okay, well, maybe it is, but yeah, I didn't see that before, but you might be right, but you might also be wrong, because if we're looking at the obvious in Games Workshop, it's most probably Selene/Luna.
No, fine, we will put that on pause.
We'll let the commenters decide.
Okay. But it does have that little bit of that Romanesque feeling because of those red robes and the gold
I'd call them more
trims.
capes, wouldn't they?
Capes, and, sorry, tabards, and they do have, like, yes, capes, you're right. And also, it just has that Romanesque feel.
For Cal.
Anyway, this actually looks a lot like a family portrait.
Yeah, no, when you say that, okay, keep going, please.
It looks like a family portrait. You've got on the far right, you've got the dad because he's got the rat stash, and then you've got maybe the third son because he has the middle son face, and then the other one that's kneeling down, definitely youngest son, and then after that the biggest guy in the middle, he's like the forgotten second son or something, and then you've got like the two other brothers on the side who are potentially twins, and they're the most competent out of everyone, and this is the family portrait and the dynamics that I sense here.
Well, I will say that all of these characters are extremely important, and I would like you to note, like we did with the Thousand Sons, to come back to this because these characters are extremely important.
Okay, like judging by the costume alone, I think dad, middle guy, forgotten third child, and twin brother on the far left, they're probably like some of the most higher ranking guys because they're wearing the cape, just judging by the costume.
I will say that these guys right here are the highest ranking members of all of the Lunar Wolves.
I get that feeling actually from it. It's very powerful.
So this next art is probably the most well-known of all of the Lunar Wolf art.
Yeah, you can see how when I described that stark contrast earlier of the black and white, you can see how these colors come together as a whole legion. We talk about some of the times when you use certain 60-30-10 rules, they may not come off in a singular model. But when you have it as a swarm, it just comes together.
Yeah.
And can you imagine, they look like rain falling down from the sky because of that just flash of black and white.
And I just want to point out with the 60-30-10 rule, we're talking about 3 color combinations.
Yes.
And you're just saying that here with this color combination, you're saying, look how well it works together.
Yes, correct. And I would say that it has that overwhelming feeling of just nothing but a sea of white and black, right? And I think this is very effective in showing exactly how efficient they are as a legion, because you can clearly see the 3 plumed guys, they are at the very top, and then all the regular troopers are at the bottom. So you can see the structure right on from looking at this artwork.
This is the second book we see from Horus Heresy, and this is the artwork from it. Now, the first one gives a lot of character and a lot of clues away, so I want to show that one last, okay?
Okay, sure.
Now, for this next one, I'm sure you'll be used to these styles of artwork, but I think it gives a good character of who they are.
So in this one, he's posed very neutrally. He's just, I think, a scout. He's just looking out for trouble, and then he's about to see. He's very vigilant, right? But I will say that the red plume is lacking a bit of volume there. It could have been a little bit more poof.
Okay.
But yeah, you can, again, like I said, look at how stark that black is against the white. It shows that definitiveness and so many cross markings that you can see on the head, on the chest. It shows that sense of definitive rules and structure that they only follow what they know is right.
I've really enjoyed showing a lot of these artworks from the previous Design versus Law because I feel like you get a lot out of them despite the fact that they are always the fully armored troopers every time I showed you. Like the first time I think was with the World Eaters and you got a great idea for who they were just off that piece.
Yeah.
Alright, I looked at the artworks and I realized, Well, I'm in a bit of a problem, so I'm going to show you the very first artwork, Horus Rising.
Is this a Horus Rising? Because I've seen this artwork before.
Yeah.
Yeah, and right off the bat, actually, I've seen this artwork before, like I said, and I thought that from the grey that they were actually space wolves.
Yeah, I have to say, the first time I saw this artwork, I thought the exact same thing.
So they're clearly doing a siege into some place. Don't know what this place is. And they're just a whole bunch of them just overwhelming this entire area. You don't even think about the missiles that are flying in the background, right? That's not the thing that's the most impressive.
Well, actually, I'm going to show you the actual book cover because the book cover barely shows those at all, and it creates a central character.
Okay. Oh yeah, I definitely noticed these three guys off to the corner, but this really sets them in the frame, and I see what you meant by that tiny little missile.
Yeah, because when we take a look at the actual book, because I've got the book, obviously, when we take a look at this, you see how focused it on these particular characters.
Yeah, and actually, they look like the three people in your class who's always looking to have fun. Because they looked so happy in the big picture, but now that I'm looking closer, they have more of a face of like, yeah! It's not like, oh boy, we're gonna siege this place, bro, and then like we're going for beers afterwards. That's the kind of feeling I got at first, because when you take a look at the big picture, you see nothing but a swarm of space marines looking so serious, and you've got these three guys over there chatting amongst themselves like, bro, this is happening, bro. Bro, that's the kind. Let me look at them.
Yeah, okay. Design versus lore-wise, what do you pick up from this?
Well, okay, it looks like they're having fun, unfortunately.
Why is that unfortunate?
Because it's war! You're not supposed to have fun in war, technically. Well, yeah, you're not meant to be having fun.
Well,
they're
no
very
comment.
confident. Okay, they know their cause. They know their cause, and they know that they're going to succeed. And again, that's that really black and white thinking that they have. They're so super confident, so meticulous. They're just like, we got this in the bag, bros. We got this in the bag. Okay, and I think that's what that is trying to show.
Do you think it shows that they sort of live for this?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely, for sure.
All right, shall we move on to the next artwork?
Yep.
So, unfortunately, the cat was out of the bag from the very start of this. And this is why I selected these particular artworks. So with this one, I wanted to be one of those transitional art pieces and see if you picked on the thread that they were going to sort of turn into the Sons of Horus.
Okay. Well, I guess. But the feeling I get from this particular portrait is more of a heroic scene. First off, it's more impressionistic, which strays away from that very clean look that we have been seeing. So it's showing a different perspective of the lunar wolves, a more sort of rough and tumble version of them. Especially with that cape he's got is definitely a fur coat, probably a wolf coat. And you can see that the sun is angled and it's coming right down from the top.
Yes, that's an angelic angle from art history,
Correct. And he's viewed from a bottom-up angle, and this creates that grandeur.
Okay? It
Okay?
makes him look bigger than he actually is, even if he is huge.
Yeah, because the perspective is that you're a small person looking up.
Or a child.
A child. You are basking in the glory of this marine that you see in front of you, right? And look at the way he's posed. The wind is sweeping towards the right. You can see his plume just in the wind. Again, it's for that drama. And he's just like, I am shooting my enemy. Look at my competence. You know? And that is the kind of look that I'm getting from them. So it does feel a little bit barbaric just because of the style choice. But yeah, which is a little confusing. So I'll have to see what Sons of Horus look like to make the comparison.
But you can see that there's a big difference between that very clean look and this look. And this was sort of the transitional artwork that I was choosing to show that transition and see if you picked up on it.
Right.
But you figured out things from the start, so I may as well just explain my thinking.
Is that one of the bros from the family portrait?
Yep.
Oh my god, he's turned Black Legion.
Well, not quite. I think he's still Sons of Horus there, but he...
Oh, because it looks very black, the armor.
Yeah, I can see why you're saying that.
Okay, well, either way, it confused me not because of the portrait of the guy, but it's like they're fighting their own people, you know? Because it's lunar wolves fighting Sons of Horus, and that's, I don't know, just the feeling that I'm getting, because like we have seen lots of other legions where they fight against each other, like the World Eaters, half of them turn to chaos and they fight each other, but I think because with those, there's a clear traitor there that is like, oh, they're chaos, they're gone forever, like there's no bringing them back from the fold. But with this one, it's not really chaos, is it? It's just Horus going off doing his own thing, and if the Sons of Horus, right? And it's just like a clash of ideology between the two parts in the same field. They're all still Horus's people.
All right, let me pick up what you're putting down. In other words, you're saying it's not a fight of good and evil, or at least it doesn't feel that way with this picture, is what you're saying?
It doesn't feel like that. There's no clear line where like you know who to root for. This doesn't feel like that. You're just like, you're bros. Why are you fighting? Come on, make up already.
Okay.
That's the kind of
And you're
feeling
saying that it doesn't feel black and white in the terms of Imperial versus Chaos.
Yes.
It just feels like this is argument at Thanksgiving. We don't have Thanksgiving here, but I think you guys
like
get the idea.
Like a family quarrel, but to a grander scale, right? And I think there is a certain type of lamentation that I get knowing that, rather than when it is people within the Legion that are traitors due to chaos, because chaos is its own thing. But everything that's happening here is still under Horus's purview. It's still within Horus. Horus is the thing that is tying all of these people together, right? And it just makes me think, why isn't he doing something about it?
Well, he is, and that's why they're fighting.
Right, okay.
Should we go to
Design versus law?
First of all, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Space Wolves, but then I'm going to tell you a story, because you said that stories helped you understand.
Yeah, it flowed a lot better. I could see the sequence of events and empathize with the characters more as compared to just a list of facts.
Horus is going to be our central character, and then I'm going to switch to somebody else.
Okay.
The 16th, as they were first known, were some of the first active Space Marines during the Unification Wars.
Okay.
They were known to be brutal, ruthless, and unwavering, yet also described as honourable. They were known for preemptive, sudden, overwhelming shock assaults.
What's a shock assault?
It's a tactic designed to create such psychological pressure that people are forced to retreat.
Ooh, yeah, I definitely got that from the artworks.
It was said that the Emperor sent his wolves to break his enemies, and this is where their name comes from.
Ooh.
During the Unification Wars, there was a mad scramble to gain resources from the Emperor's enemies. He would give mercy to many of them because he needed the resources from them. He needed the people from them. And this was no different for the Selenar gene cults of Luna.
Ah, I see.
The Emperor combined the 7th, the 13th, and the 16th legions together to make an assault on Luna, sending rockets to the moon.
Ooh.
The 16th was the vanguard of this force, and they arrived silently on Luna. Such was the ferocity of their force that the survivors of the Selenar gene cult begged, "Call off your wolves." And so, from then on, they became known as the Lunar Wolves.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense now.
However, this is just the start of our story, because, as you know, Horus was the first found of all of the Primarch. For the story of Horus is the story of a man filled with resentment. His world, Chthoniya, was written off by the Imperial surveyors. They thought that it had no value. It was a former mining and forge world, but now it had no resources, and the only thing that was left there was bitter gangers fighting over the scraps.
Sounds similar to Nocturne.
Except without the resources.
Ugh.
This is where we find the first resentment of Horus. Horus was always the diplomat. In one of the books, it's described how he uses what is essentially, in an American context, a Midwestern accent. Do you know the story of Arnold Schwarzenegger and how he couldn't use his own native German for the Terminator?
Yeah, because the accent that he had in Germany was kind of their hillbilly accent.
Yes, we're using the insulting term because that's how they described it.
Right, okay. So it is really weird to think of a Primarch like him using such an accent.
Yes, he didn't use what could be described as a West Coast or East Coast accent, one which would denote a certain level of power or cultural influence. Instead, he used the Midwest one. But why did he do this?
To seem more humble, maybe?
To seem more approachable, more relatable, less arrogant, yet he was a Primarch. He was above every single person that was on this planet. There was no one who could compare to him.
How did he feel about that? Like, did he feel like he was putting himself down?
We don't actually know 100%, but we can pick up contextual clues. Now, I want you to note something. They remained the Lunar Wolves when he took over them.
Okay.
I think you're forgetting something.
Oh, what's that?
When it comes to the legions, many Primarchs renamed their legion when they took over.
Right, but I think maybe this was probably because he wanted to stay humble and not cause issues.
There's a chance, or maybe it's just because he was the first found and it wasn't procedure yet. There's many reasons why, but imagine being later on and seeing every other Primarch renaming their legion in their image.
Right.
And this would have been a build-up from the first meeting that he ever had with his fellow Primarch. He wanted to kill Russ when he first met him.
Yes, I think I remember this story vaguely because he was very barbaric when they first met and he thought, is this what we're going to be dealing with?
Yes, exactly. You remember that from the Space Wolves video. As far as he knew, he came from the absolute dregs of society. And then he met this guy and he said, I didn't even know that there was a floor you could go through. He was so uncivilized, so barbaric that he was lying with animals.
Right. And he felt that this was not the image of a Primarch.
Not at all. And he was looking forward to meeting his brothers, meeting somebody who should have been his equal. But this is who I am working with? Someone who is greater than an Astartes, but is certainly not my equal.
Yeah.
And to add insult to injury, he must share a name with him. They are the Space Wolves. He is the Lunar Wolves,
yeah.
and now they can never be separated.
Oh, yeah, that I can see where the resentment comes from there.
Now imagine each of the other Primarchs being found. Now, you find better brothers, essentially, but each of them renames their legion, and it is theirs. It is no one else's, whereas Horus is merely an extension of the Emperor.
Yeah, okay, I can see resentment point number 2.
This is why in one of our lore videos, which we've got behind the members wall, we talk about how we think after the Siege of Terror, they should focus on the Great Crusade, because during Horus Rising and False Gods, that was the one thing I think the books did very poorly. It felt as if Horus fell too quickly.
Yes.
It felt as if he just lost himself in a book and a quarter, not even a book and a half. And you question, okay, well, why didn't this happen earlier if it happened so quickly to him?
Yeah, so there was no build-up and it was hard to empathize completely with him.
We always knew that he was going to betray the Emperor, but it didn't feel like such a tragedy like it felt with so many others throughout the 40k universe. We didn't have that moment where I am going to die here on Armageddon. We didn't have that moment where our soul is torn apart. We didn't have that moment where we said, no, Horus, come on, buddy.
Yeah, you're crossing the line there.
Yeah,
just come back.
And you don't feel that heart-wrenching pull, or at least I didn't. It felt as if, well, that was inevitable.
Well, then what happens next?
This is where I will stop talking about Horus and start talking about Garviel Loken.
And who's he?
Perhaps the greatest hero of the Imperium in all of its time. Perhaps even more than Nathaniel Garrow.
Really? Okay.
Because he is the one that allowed Nathaniel Garrow to escape.
Oh, okay.
When the book starts, one of the members of the Mournival is killed, and they must be replaced. Looking for a replacement, they find Gaviel Loken, a very disagreeable sort of man, but very honourable.
What's the Mournival?
Do you remember that family portrait I showed
yes.
you? That is the Mournival. Well, actually, 4 of them are the Mournival.
Okay.
In fact, at least one of these names you're going to recognise. Horus Aximand, Little Horus, Tarek Torgadon, and Ezekiel Abaddon.
Wait, Ezekiel, isn't that a Dark Angels guy?
No, think about it. Where do you know that name from?
Abaddon?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the Black Legion guy. Yeah.
Yes.
That's Abaddon?
Yes.
He is Abaddon.
Yes.
Oh my god.
The Mournival were used as a tool by Horus. They spoke the words that he did not wish to speak or did not wish to be seen speaking. Not only that, he used them as a backboard for his ideas. Even though he truly knew he did not need them, he did not need people to bounce ideas off. He was Horus, the War Master. Horus Lupercal, the first chosen son of the Emperor.
The way you're telling this story, Cal, it sounds like Horus is constantly putting on an act.
Well, I'm not sure if I'd call it putting on an act, but I think it could be called an accurate description. The reason he used them in this way is because he needed to get certain points across without him being the one to have said it. For example, when an envoy comes to him, one of the Mournival says, "Watch what you are saying. I should take your head for your comments. You are speaking to the War Master." Horus quickly rebukes this member of the Mournival and shows mercy. But in reality, what he wanted to show is, look, you are far lower than me.
Right.
I am actually taking your audience. You are my supplicant.
Right.
You are beneath me, yet I give you the time of day.
Right. And he can't be seen, showing that, or else that shows him to be arrogant and he might lose whatever
Face.
favor.
Yeah, it's all face game.
Yeah, exactly. And I know how hard it is to keep up an act like that.
Yeah, well, unfortunately in Singapore, a lot of Chinese and
Asian
Indian
culture, it's all about the face game.
Yeah. Gaviel Loken was the voice of the honest and forthright outsider, but most of all, he was the voice of the true believer of the imperial truth.
And what's the imperial truth?
That there are no gods, that there is nothing above the reason of science.
We all find out sooner or later that's not true.
Indeed. In fact, the primordial truth is that the chaos gods exist and have always existed.
That's right.
So strong is his faith and his belief in the rules of this system that he almost caused a civil war amongst the lunar wolves before Horus's fall.
How did that happen?
There was a group called the Warrior Lodge. It was an organization created so that Marines could talk with one another without the fear of rank being pulled on them. This was meant to be a brotherhood within a brotherhood where the lesser ranks could talk to the higher ones without being afraid of being reprimanded for telling them the things that they needed to know.
That's right, okay. Sometimes leaders are blinded by certain things and they need to hear things that the other soldiers might have seen or...
The troops on the ground, so to speak.
Yeah.
And this is one of the reasons why he was brought up, because he was seen as an officer who was one of the boys. He was one of the men on the ground. He understood his troops, and that was a voice they wanted on the Mournival.
Right, yep, no, that makes sense.
But after Horus's injury, he saw the Legion slowly break up. He wondered why the word bearers were here, and he did not like how things were going. And he was one of the men who was on Istvan 4.
Oh no.
He, along with Tarek Torgadon and Sol Tarvitz, are the ones that allowed Nathaniel Garrow to escape, to warn the Emperor. But in the end, brother fought brother. The Mournival was no more. Horus Aximand fought Tarek Torgadon, and Abaddon Ezekiel fought Gaviel Loken.
Oh no.
And this was the end of the Lunar Wolves. Those bunch of rowdy bad boys, professional soldiers and honourable gangsters.
I am a little confused at how the Civil War happened, though.
Well, it is confusing for both the reader and for Gaviel and the Loyalists.
Okay.
Because what happens is Horus realizes that he must purge all of the Loyalists from his legion.
But why would he need to do such a thing?
Because he is going to fight the Emperor. He is going on his Black Crusade. He will see the galaxy burn or see them freed.
But why does he even want to go against the Emperor at this point?
Well, if I tell you that story, it won't be included in the next Legion, and it's kind of critical for that.
Gotcha.
But each of these people have to do a bit of sleuthing because they don't know what's going on. Horus comes back from near death, and all of a sudden the mood of the entire Legion changes, and nobody's quite sure what's happening.
Right. I have a teeny tiny guess why things might have changed.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe while he was at the brink of death, he was seeing chaos gods. And...
Well, we do know that from the Magnus story, but I don't want to give you the story in full just yet.
I understand.
As Gaviel lied broken, so too did the memory of what was once the Lunar Wolves.
That's very sad.
With that, shall we move on to
Final notes?
So, Sunny, with that story over, do you feel as if you have a good idea of who the Lunar Wolves were?
So they were honorable gangers, essentially, very professional soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
And I got that from the design and the color scheme and everything. So I think it just all fits nicely.
Mm-hmm. Sunny, I'm not going to lie. You sound emotionally exhausted.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot more emotional exhaustion's gonna come once we go on to the other sections.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. You're gonna feel it quite a bit.
Yeah, so I just,
Usually at this time, you do a redesign of what you think maybe they could look like, and I foresaw this emotional exhaustion. So I found one of our favorites, Levkoi. Do you want to give just a little commentary on these guys here?
Okay, let's just talk about some of the plumes here.
Mm-hmm.
Does it not look like a mohawk?
Well, the plume was a very important part of their culture. So, you know, the honorable hairpiece.
Yes, correct.
Like, you know it mostly from Avatar The Last Airbender.
Yeah.
It's very similar, that idea. And you see that Ezekiel still wears his warrior's top knot.
Yeah, but when you take a look at, like, say, a top knot or the plume that in the traditional sense, it does have that regal, sort of authoritative vibe. But with this one, the ganger part,
yes, very much comes through.
Yeah. So I think this is really good, what he's done. And it really has that sci-fi modern look to it because of the color scheme, like I mentioned before. They are modern because of the color scheme and that jarring juxtaposition of the white against that stark black. And I think, actually, I kind of prefer this more than the original design because...
Are you talking about that original officer? Because that original officer that you saw was actually a Terran, and so he doesn't have that gang culture that these guys do.
Oh, righto. Well, yeah, now I'm a little confused when I might like which part then.
Okay,
But it fits. I think this has another essence to it.
Also, I wanted to show you another part, not just their heads, but he also redesigned their shoulder pads.
Very dark and moody.
Yes. Well, I mean, like, that's what they are, aren't they?
Well, no, I didn't really feel the dark and moodiness.
Well, I guess, like, that's sort of the ganger idea, like...
Yeah, edgelordy.
Yeah, edgelordy. I think that's a
edgelordy.
better way of describing
because
it.
I feel like this feels like the Nocturne, who are they?
Night Lords.
Night Lords, yes. Night Lords, but white scheme. You know, this is like the other direction.
I guess I can see it that way.
Because take a look at this pauldron right here. You've got crescent moons at the tips of the Petruges, or Truges, but we keep saying Petruges.
Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, and it feels very edgelordy because it's so sharp and all that. And then you've got the wolf claw coming down on the... Yeah, so these barbaric sort of elements are coming through a little bit more. I mean, take a look at that one. The wolves are...
three wolves ripping apart the moon.
Oh, that is such great symbolism. Oh, that's beautiful. I love it.
All right, shall we move on to Heresy?
Heresy.
Stop. I see my story wasn't emotionally damaging enough, so I'm going to have to work on that for next time. All right, here's your first son of Horus.
He looks like a brigand.
Yep, that's fair.
Like a Mad Max brigand. I think mainly because he looks a little more uncouth with the skull chained to the pauldron, bloodied fists and eye, the roughened up plume, and the spikes on the pauldron.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and all these show the suggestion of hostility, right? Lots of other legions show their brutality in this way, but it tends to be over the top.
Yep.
Yeah, and I like that with the Sons of Horus. It's just hinting at you. It's still fairly clean in design. It doesn't overcrowd you with a million elements. It has just enough to give you the impression. It isn't trying too hard. And I think that shows how Horus's diplomacy / face game tactics are coming into play here, along with, of course, showing off that ganger culture.
Yeah, I saw the showing off of the gang culture, but I didn't see so much the diplomacy part.
Well, when you told me the story about how he doesn't want to say things from his mouth, he makes the impression of things, right? Mm-hmm. So I was like, that kind of comes through here. If I compare it to other legions and how they do it. So when I compare it,
what you're saying is with other legions, they're quite overt with their stuff, but here you pick it up simply by their nature. Is this what you're saying?
Yeah, like from the design and also after knowing the story, I feel like that is coming through a lot more. That mentality of Horus is coming through a lot more. And overall, the color has gone from that clean and striking white and black-red combo to somewhat of a dark teal, black, and dark red. So they've gone from colorless purity to colored brutality.
All right, well, do you want to talk a little bit about the color psychology of those?
So teal is indicative of the sea, which is our first abstraction of chaos. But chaos in the sense of the literal meaning of the word, to be disorderly and wild, not chaos as in evil primordial forces per se. Pair that with black and dark red, that gives an overall darker tone to the messaging. The black adds intimidation and the dark red adds a sense of seriousness, primarily in the sense of having ambition and power and an undercurrent of aggression because it reminds us of things like wine and dried blood.
Well, I think that the reason why he looks like a thug is because he is. You see the blood on his fists. I mean, he doesn't look like a soldier anymore because he's got that top knot. He's got the skull on him. You look at this guy compared to a lunar wolf and you're just like...
completely different.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's what they did really, really well. That differentiation from lunar wolf to a son of Horus.
Oh, speaking of son of Horus, you have to tell me why they used the eye symbol now.
Well, it's kind of ironic because there is no direct reason why they have the Eye of Horus. It is just simply meant to represent Horus himself.
Yeah, okay, but the eye also denotes like judgment or something, right?
Eyes denote a lot of things. So when I was talking about how eyes denote judgment, it's when people are looking at you, that's seen as a threat. So you know how we have kangaroos come along occasionally, and when we look at them, they're frozen solid. But the moment we look away, they'll escape. So that's meant to represent that symbolic predatory, knowledge, right? That you have been seen by a predator.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if I could just try and bring that into a Hinduism context.
Yeah, go for it.
We have a god of judgment, right? And we always say this one thing, kannu patturon. So that actually means that you don't want this god's eye to befall on you.
Exactly. So I'll give me a second. Sorry, I had to compose myself for a second because that is exactly what it is in the context of the law. You never want the eye of the law on top of you because they'll find a reason for you to be at fault. Because there's that old saying of, I think it comes from the American context, but I think it's basically universal, which is, I think the American was you commit 20 felonies a day, but I think somebody says you break 20 laws a day. I think that's the more common sort of thing because there's so many laws on the books.
Yeah.
All they have to do is find something which they can definitively say that you've done wrong.
Oh, yeah, okay, and I think that is starting to make a little bit more sense now.
That and eyes are windows to the soul.
Yep.
There's a lot of things, but also because of the way that it's done in that stylized way, I think it has a connection to the mystic.
Oh, okay. Maybe I should keep my thoughts to myself so I don't get you to say too much to me.
Well, no, we're still doing the design breakdown, so I don't want to steer away from that. But when it comes to the eye, there's, like you said, with the Thousand Suns, there's that third eye, which symbolically represents you being able to see into the mystical world, into the spiritual world.
Correct.
And his change comes after his spiritual change.
Right, yeah, that's what I was trying to get at, because I didn't want to ask too many questions.
Yeah,
and
well,
then...
we already covered it in the design versus law part before.
But we should probably move on to the next guy.
We should. I fear for the length of this episode. There may have been a reason why I went on and on about eyes for a little while, because here's your next guy.
Oh, yeah, okay. This feels more edgy and hostile compared to the previous guy. Again, it has that strong motorcycle gang vibes with the spikes along the helmet, pauldron, and shin. He's got chains with the medallion strung across them on the pauldron. The armor seems bloodied and damaged. Very Hot Topic bad boy. You know,
I wouldn't call him Hot Topic bad boy.
Oh, come on.
No, because he seems like somebody who is more of an actual threat. Like you said, where other people overdo it in a fashion sense. It seems like this guy, he will just beat you to death.
Yeah, he does have that, intimidating feeling about him. And there's a lot more graffiti like scratch marks all across the armor. And of course, there's the Eye of Horus symbol right at the center of his chest and on the knee. Overall, the transition from the clean and pure design to this rough and tumble look shows a strong sense of rebellion. Like a teenager going through their I'm cool and independent phase.
Yeah, except when this particular teenager went, I'm cool, they went, let the galaxy burn.
Well, I think it's fitting for the story that you told me of Horus and how he's resentful. And this feels a bit like, look at me, Dad. I got my own thing going now. You know what I mean?
I see. So they're all just edgy teenagers trying to rebel from Dad.
Little bit.
But you did point it out in his chest, but not so much how prominent this eye symbol is. It's everywhere. Yes. It's on his knees, and it's stylized in 3 different ways. So that feeling of judgment comes right upon you. I am watching you.
Yes, that's
right. You
right.
cannot escape me. Because, of course, he's got his normal eyes, right? And then it's on his chest and on his knees. So wherever you look, there's an eye upon you.
Yeah, see, I didn't actually pick up on the yellow one on the left knee, but the right knee I picked up on it because that's the iconic Horus eye symbol. But I thought maybe that other one might be something different.
I just want to bring up something from one of our most popular videos, still our most popular videos, which is what your army's color psychology says about you. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, you just said that teal is the color of chaos because you knew they were going to betray them. No. Teal has always been. And you can see with this color combination, you can see with the eyes how there is something sinister going on. And all you have to do is open your eyes and then you'll be able to figure it out, because it's not that hidden and deep. Like, if you look at this guy compared to a lunar wolf or compared to a space wolf, you could just go, oh, no, something's
different. Yeah. It's all about giving the impression and visual contextual clues.
Yes.
The thing is, a lot of people can't articulate it, but once...
Yeah. I think that's people's main problem. They can't articulate it, but they feel something deep down there like, oh, that ain't right.
Yeah, that's right.
I feel like we're getting a bit long in the tooth, so let's move on to the next one.
Okay, with this fella, his helmet feels more wide, which makes him feel like he has a larger frame than normal, but in reality, it probably isn't. Again, it's that illusion of giving an intimidating impression coming in. There's a heavier use of that glossy jet black.
Yep.
Yeah, and with the bonding studs across the legs, it actually looked like motorcycle leather jacket.
Yep.
Yeah, and again, that's a different variation of how you can bring in that ganger aesthetic.
Yes, or, motorcycle ganger aesthetic.
Yes. There's asymmetry here with the different pauldrons and placement of the skulls. There's also a lot more golds with this guy, so I'm guessing he is a higher ranking official. And judging by the rope on the side of his belt, I'm thinking it's a whip, so he must be some sort of disciplinarian, which you don't see in other legions.
I'm going to say that you're correct in this instance. It is a symbol of office. It's not an actual weapon, at least in this context, because you got to remember, whipping a guy in power armor isn't going to do a whole lot.
Well, it could be like one of those Necromunda power whip things.
Yeah, but it's obviously not. It's just,
regular old whip?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay, I guess
and
so.
so it shows as a symbol of office. But the other thing is, once again, that eye so prominent, judging you once
right
again.
At the center, right?
All right, would you like to see more symbolic eyes?
Oh, okay.
All right, here's your next one.
Okay, well, so with this guy in particular, he's very dark and broody. He looks just like the first guy we talked about, but all black, except for that hint of teal in the lower mask and more spikes. He looks a lot like a spiked mace right now.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, so there's gold along his pauldron trims and gold scribing along the helmet and forearm. That is an interesting touch, and I'm noticing, so I wonder what that means lore-wise. Does he happen to be a destroyer for the Sons of Horus? Because normally they're all black.
Well, no. So when it came to Horus's veterans, they would often be in all black.
Okay, that makes sense, because we do see a trend of all black with veterans and some chaplains, but chaplains will have the skull mask, so that's why I was like, he's probably not a chaplain, so okay, that makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm. And once again, we see a stylized eye, different from all of the others that we've seen on the chest, and that same stylized eye that we see on the shoulder pad.
I feel that this stylized eye, the one on the chest, feels a bit more evil because it's like a red eye with gold right in the middle, so it's even more intimidating.
Well, the reason why it might feel more evil is because it's serpentine.
Oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
And once again, talking about how we figure out these guys are going to turn or that sort of thing. So when it comes to serpents, we see them as one of our first abstractions of evil. So you've got that first abstraction of evil, the serpent, with the judging eye and that teal color. Not in this guy's case, he's just black which has all of these other things. But I just wanted to focus on those two combinations there. And then you can see how they're turning to chaos.
Yeah,
you don't have to know anything about the setting at all.
Yeah, it's all these successive hints that come at you, because when you said serpentine eye, I was like, what does a serpent mean? That which tempts you, right?
Well, it's not. So that's in the biblical sense, but the serpent is the first abstraction of evil, because when it comes to serpents, they can't eat us, at least the poisonous ones, right?
Oh, okay.
So when they harm us and they kill us, it doesn't feel like the natural cycle like many other animals. Like if a wolf kills you and eats you, it doesn't feel the same as...
Oh, it feels more malicious. Like,
yes.
Okay, I kill you now. Now you're dead. Okay, bye.
Yeah.
Because I can't eat you.
And
so it feels like murder.
Not just that. It's also the way in which it kills. Because you look normal. You look perfectly healthy for the most part, except that one thing. And you die slowly.
Oh, okay. That is... I'm seeing a lot more connections now.
But enough talking about symbolism. Here's some more guys with eyes.
Oh. This Terminator looks very well used, very heavily scratched up. The things that catch my eye with him is his redness of the eye. It's very stark against the white upper portion. It makes it look like his eyes are bloodied and puffy, and the skull on his belt has an iron hand symbol on it.
Yep, that's correct. Nice catch.
So, story-wise, I'm wondering which side Horus is on right now during this rebellion phase. Have the Iron Hands turned to chaos yet and they are eradicating them, or is there some other reason that this has happened?
Well, I'm just going to tell you this is after the massacre at Istvan 4. So obviously the Iron Hands were dealt a fairly fatal blow there, and this is one of the war trophies.
Oh, okay. With this Marine, he's got the Eagle and Lightning lightning symbol on his chest and another bird-like symbol on his shin. So if I'm remembering correctly, that's the symbol of the crusade, right?
The Unification Wars.
Yes, correct. It seems that they are still loyalist, but the biggest variation here is the use of...
Well, I wouldn't say loyalist, because if they're with the Sons of Horus now, but what did that centurion mark indicate last time? Do you remember when it came to that?
I know it's a high-ranking official.
So, of course, it does denote rank, but more importantly, all of these are signifiers that this is a Terran troop.
Oh, yes, Terran. Yeah, so that's why I said, like, loyalist.
Yeah, I follow your logic. Yeah, continue.
Okay. But it's not loyalist, it's Terran,
That's right.
Yeah, so he must have fought with the Emperor even.
Well, he could have fought with the Emperor, but anyway, continue with your analysis.
So the biggest variation here is the use of bronze metals. And the darker a metal is, the more it is associated with low technological advancement and brutishness, which is why Khorne units use a lot of bronze and brass in their design too. So I think this is very fitting for their theme. Other than that, he's got the plume. Again, that's high rank. So, but as a final point of comparison, this teal paired with the bronze makes him look like he's verdigris from top to bottom.
No, okay, I follow what you're saying. Like, there's some brass that we're seeing, but it's mostly verdigris. But
but I understand that this is obviously just the color of the armor, but it feels like verdigris.
Yeah. All right, I think we should move on to the next guy, because I think we've drained all the blood from that rock.
Okay, wow, this raptor, he is entirely teal with gold pauldron trims. And with the lion on the chest and the checker pattern on the knee, I'm noticing more introduction of European-style elements and less ganger vibes, right? And it's showing the Legion is sort of toning down their rebellious streak a bit and becoming a bit more orderly once more, but still wanting to have their own identity. They're slowly refining and setting their tone, but overall it feels more imperialistic and like more the loyalist Death Guard, European Garden vibes.
Well, when I take a look at it and I take a look at those things, if you just replace those two pauldrons with Dark Angel symbols, he would be a perfect fit for the Dark Angels, not only because of the lion, but also because of the checker patterns, which has the connection to the Freemasons and so on.
Exactly. In fact, I thought of that. I thought of that when I saw this guy. I thought the exact same thing as you.
Well, if we're thinking the exact same thing, I think we should move on to the next guy.
Yeah. This Terminator has gone back to the old ganger vibes once again with the spikes, chained medallions, and graffiti scribes all over him. But the color scheme is now black, dark red, and gold. It's looking more Black Legion rather than the Sons of Horus at the moment. But if we take a closer look at one of the knee, that same bird symbol is there, like with the previous Marines. So I'm thinking this is still part of that Terran loyalist army situation. Yep. So other than my confusion with the inconsistency in the colors, oh wait, hold on. Maybe this guy is one of the veterans that you were talking about.
Yeah, in fact, he's a Justerian Terminator. So he's one of the elite of the Sons of Horus. And he was also one of the elite of the Lunar Wolves as well.
The Mornaval?
No. So the Mornaval is only like 4 dudes.
4 dudes, okay.
So he can't be that.
But one of them was wearing this armor when he fought the
Yes, which was
Lunar
Ezekiel
Wolves.
Abaddon.
Oh, yeah, okay. So we're starting to see the foreshadowing here.
Yes, we are. Well, is that where you want to end then? Shall we foreshadow? So I wanted to start out with this one because once again, you know, when I tell these stories, what I want to do is I sort of want to slowly build up to a point and see if you get the clues on the way there.
Yes.
So here's our first one.
So with this one, there's a lot of warm tones being used here in the environment. You've got lots of the reds and the yellows from the fire and also in the background. But you can see that the way that the light is coming in from the back again, it still gives that sort of heroic, hope-filled symbolism. So, and also when you take a look at the way the Central Man is posed, he's ready. He's like, okay, someone's coming. I'm gonna cut you down. And there's a sense of calmness about him and the Legion below as well. They're all facing the same direction. They're shadowed so that you can have more focus on the central guy. But there's that sense of quietness about the Legion where it's like, I'm listening for my orders and we're all very calm and cool and collected and we're just going to tear down the enemy amongst all this chaos. Because like at the background, it's just chaos. But only these guys are so calm.
And one of the things that I wanted to point out when you were noting the warm tones, even and those smoke-filled clouds are made of warm tones.
Exactly.
Rather than of neutral shadows like
Yes,
black and white. They're
this is
made
right.
of browns.
Yes, correct, exactly. So again, when you have warm tones, it's to have a little bit more of a positive connotation.
I'm not sure I would agree in this environment because all of your warm tones are coming from chaos and death and war.
Yeah, but the lighting is what we want to focus on and how it frames the
Yeah,
picture.
I do know about lighting and such, but I wouldn't exactly say that the warm tones are all positive. I'd say the majority of them are negative.
Okay, I see what you're saying there, but you get what I'm saying.
Yes, all right. Let us move on to the next one.
Oh, hey, it's Horus.
Well, it's not Horus, but
Not Horus.
No, but that's one of the things that I wanted to talk to you in design versus law, but I guess I'll bring it up now. This is where there's a lot of the problem elements with some of the fans because essentially every single Space Marine is a clone of their Primarch. We see it very notably with the Raven Guard, with the Night Lords. We see it with Horus, especially because their faces become like him, right? But we also see it with skin tone. So when I was talking about the Raven Guard and the Night Lords, they all turn that ashen white. And, of course, with Vulcan, they all turn that black,
Yeah.
right? And this is where some people get very upset about racial characteristics because they say there shouldn't be such thing as a black ultramarine or something like that because they should match their Primarch. Each chapter has gene drift,
Oh, yeah.
but yeah, so
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. So this isn't Horus himself, but one of his Marines that look a lot like him.
yes, and of course, it changes from Legion to Legion. For example, I was just about to talk about the 20th Legion, but I won't here because we haven't gotten to them
spoilers.
yet. I mean, like, I've already talked about Vulcan and the Raven Guard, but you already knew how these guys look.
Yeah, so, okay, I should probably come back to the portrait.
Yeah.
So he looks very resolved here with his expression. And I think that's basically what the artist wants us to focus on. His resolve at how he's coming at the enemy, probably. And the thing that catches my eye the most is all that scar that's going across his head and his eye. It almost looked like he had some sort of surgery done across his head.
I don't think that that's meant to show surgery at all. I think that's meant to show fighting scars.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it shows that he's been through a lot, like some
Yes,
pretty
he
traumatic stuff. And he still has that face of resolve and he's going for it.
But one of the reasons I chose this artwork is despite all of the trinkets, fetishes, and so on, he still looks like a hero here. He doesn't look like an agent of chaos despite those spikes on the backpack, despite all of the eye trinkets and fetishes and so on. He still looks like a hero.
Yeah, he has that passionate look about him. And I think the thing to point out is also that his skin color looks healthy.
Oh,
right?
yeah, he doesn't look sallow, I think it's
Sallow
called.
or like, ashy, pale or anything like
Yeah.
that. Or even the eyes are very clear. So if you had some of that ashy look about him, you would probably instantly think he is part of the Chaos faction. But you don't get that with him because he looks very healthy, very passionate, despite all that hostility from the armor itself.
You can see once again why I was showing you these arts because I wanted to lead you up to something so you can see all of those fetishes and everything, but he doesn't quite look traded yet. But
No.
since you guessed them from the very start, that idea was thrown out. So we'll move on to the next artwork.
Oh, and we have the Imperial Fists.
Yes, and here at this point, it's obvious that they're traitors, but they don't look as chaotic here, do they?
No, because take a look at the colors used and the background. The sun, I can't really tell if it's rising or setting, but there is all these beautiful blues and purples and pinks, and it's very saturated as well. So it's hard to see this as a negative portrait of what's happening here, right? So taking a look at the environment itself, it looks very industrial. So I'm thinking this is the Legion's home world, because you said that they come from a mining world, right?
Yes, a used up mining world.
So maybe the fight is coming to them. The Imperial Fists are not on the home ground. They're coming to the Sons of Horus. And so you can see from the sea of green.
Is that because they're coming from the background and the Imperial Fists are coming from the foreground? Is that why you say you think they're the invading force?
Yeah, that's why I think they're the invading force, because I recognize that character from the very first artwork that that you showed me because he had that axe.
Oh, well,
as
that's
well.
more an iconic thing of these guys, but please go on.
Yeah, okay, so he is defending himself against the swing of the sword that's coming from the Imperial Fist, maybe Captain, and the rest of the Sons of Horus are just standing ground. You know, they're using their numbers. You see that they focus a lot on the numbers of the Sons of Horus rather than the numbers of the Imperial Fist. So they want you to focus on the Sons of Horus, not the Imperial Fist. So because you combine that with the saturation, with the dawn of the sky, it makes it look hopeful that they're not actually the traitors in this picture.
I see. All right. Is there anything else you want to give to this one? Because this was certainly my transitional piece that I usually use.
Oh, I think that's pretty much all I can say about them. I think they're the ones that are trying to fight off the Imperial Fist here. Maybe it makes them look like the misunderstood heroes.
Interesting.
In this picture.
In this picture, of course, and we reference it image by image. We don't take it as a whole.
Yeah.
That's when we go to the story. But
yes, correct.
we try and analyze each piece of artwork.
Yeah, by itself and what it's trying to communicate.
Exactly. All right. With that, let's move on to our next piece. Now, this was always going to be my final piece where you were going to get the aha moment.
Yeah.
But you got it from the start. So give us your interpretation knowing the story.
So this is the depression picture. Obviously, it's Horus fully turned to chaos and he is killing his brother Sanguinius.
Yeah.
And he looks so incredibly small compared to Horus.
Yeah, which is ironic because he's usually depicted as so huge with his wings.
Oh, yes.
But because they're in that more curled position, he looks so much smaller.
And, you know, we can see again, remember how we talked about the skin tones tell you whether or not someone is gone to chaos? He looks so ashy here. He's got his red eyes and he's gleaming at his brother. And look at how many eyes are just all over Horus. You can just see them. In fact, with the way that it's shaped, that's the starting point. The target markers are the eyes. Your eye immediately goes to Horus and then it trails down his body to his knee. And then it catches along the tip of the wing and then up into Sanguinius's face. So that is a beautiful sort of spiral Fibonacci sequence coming in with the...
Oh, right. Yeah, no, it does have the Fibonacci sequence. You're right. Oh, okay,
so
yeah.
It might not fit 100% correctly
Yeah,
if I
but
put it on the top, but...
That's often the way when it comes to these sorts of things. It doesn't fit 100%, but...
It's a guideline, right? But it shows that to you. And you can see how he's just... There's no hope. This picture is just no hope. You've got two Primarchs, and one of them is completely crushing the other. And you can just see and feel the sadness of this because you feel like Sanguinius doesn't have a chance here. You know, his face and his expression, he just looks so like, brother, please stop, you know?
Well, I'm not sure about that. I think that he looks more resolved to the fight and resolved to his own death.
Yeah, I think he's accepted his fate. That's what it looks like because he's like, really looks suffocated at this point. And
He does look overwhelmed. I'm not sure about suffocated because suffocated is where like there's absolutely no hope, but it looks like he's going to push on to his last in this.
Yeah.
Like you see that almost feral look in his mouth. It looks like I'm not going to stop. I've been backed into a corner, but I'm going to keep fighting. I will never surrender.
And essentially Sanguinius, I mean, everyone knows this story. If they know Warhammer, they come into this story. Sanguinius essentially sacrifices himself to give the chink in the armor.
Whatever that chink may be.
And this is that scene. I feel that that's him showing that, you know, I am making my stand here.
Yep. This is our longest video ever.
And we thank you for spending your time with us. And if you'd like to see more videos from us, please consider becoming a member.
Back to your regularly scheduled programming. Well, shall we move on to
Design versus Law?
So the Horus Heresy is kind of a big thing. There is currently 64 published books around it, and there's a whole lot of short stories.
I don't know how anyone gets through all of that.
Yeah. And after seeing your reaction when I dragged you through the Badab
Oh,
War...
let's not talk about the Badab War. No, thank you.
So, obviously, I'm not going to go through all of it, but there are some key events which I think are the most important. So, I've settled on 4. The Drop Site Massacre, not a singular event, but the failures of his brothers to respond. Then, the turning of Ezekiel Abaddon.
Oh, yes, of course.
And finally, the death of Horus.
The death of Horus, not Sanguinius?
How do you kill a god?
I have no idea.
You must start with his followers. Though they may call him a false god, the Emperor was a god in all but name, able to make thousands of space marines kneel at his command from light years away.
Wow.
Only a fool would underestimate his power, and Horus was no fool. First, there was Istvan III, where they purged all of the loyalists from their rank, and then they moved on to fortifying Istvan IV. Horus was no fool. He knew that if he was to do this, first he must get rid of his loyalist elements within his ranks and have everyone be loyal to him. But the other part of this is he knew that the Emperor must die because there were some foes he could not face. He, as the War Master, sent the Dark Angels far away to the outer rims of the galaxy.
Ooh. Wasn't there another legion he didn't want to face?
And who would that be?
I think it was the Ultramarines?
You would be correct. However, I can't talk about that in this episode because it is so crucial to the next episode.
Okay.
And you might remember why from the Ultramarine episode.
Oh, it had something to do with the word bearers?
Yes, it did. With these 2 major impediments out of the way, what are you to do? Are you to face the entire might of the Imperium?
Maybe he'd go after the Emperor by himself now?
No, not at all. The first thing you must do is gather allies.
Oh.
And then the next thing you must do is remove as many enemies as possible, which he has done with the Ultramarines and with the Dark Angels in a way. But now was the time for his grand plan to come together. He, along with the World Eaters, Death Guard, and Emperor's children were bunkered down on Istvan IV. Ferrus Manus was furious at his brother Fulgrim and led this assault. He came with elements of the Salamanders, Raven Guard, and of course his own Iron Hands. But Ferrus Manus thought he was no fool. He came with Imperial backup and, of course, the Imperial Fists were looking to investigate all of these rumours. However, with a little help from the war, they didn't manage to translate there in time.
Okay, so what happened?
I'll have you guessed. Based off that second wave of people who were coming. They came from the Iron Warriors, the Alpha Legion, the Night Lords, and a large contingent of the Word Bearers.
These are all Chaos guys.
Now they are.
So with this second wave, I'm guessing the Loyalists got eradicated?
Almost so. Vulcan ended up captured by Conrad Kurz. Ferrus Manus was killed by his most beloved brother Fulgrim. And Corvus Corax somehow escaped all of the devastation. But each of these legions have been devastated ever since. Even to the current date of M41, some of these legions, now chapters, still haven't recovered.
It's incredible to see even after all that time that has passed, they're still paying the price for Horus's treachery.
Indeed. However, after this, the Imperium well and truly knew that Horus had betrayed the Imperium. But not everybody was shocked with this news. In fact, the Mechanicum joined with Horus. That's not all. In fact, the Imperium was almost torn in half, with some siding with Horus and others siding with the Emperor. The Imperium knew Horus as the just War Master, the one that would listen, the one that was diplomatic, the one that would listen to them when no one else would. He was the eternal diplomat after all.
Yep.
So when the unreasonable Imperial tithe came around, who was the one who would be willing to listen to them, who would be willing to change under a new administration.
Horus?
The Emperor left the crusade and put his first chosen son in charge. And what he did was create a rod for his own back, because his son was seen as the one who understood people, the one who listened to people, and the Emperor was seen as he always was, cold and distant. Even now, people don't know why Horus was made War Master and why he left the crusade.
Wasn't it because the Emperor wanted to work on the webway?
Yes, but he told no one
of
this.
course. Mm-hmm.
And so he was seen as a tired, old, powerful tyrant, bleeding all he could from his new servants, his new serfs, with tithes which were so unreasonable that some simply could not be fulfilled.
Could I ask, was the tithes there to fund the webway project?
The tithes were there to fund the entire Imperium.
Of course.
This, along with his unreasonable and absolute imperial truth, destroyed cultures wherever he went. But Horus was here, and Horus would listen.
Horus would be reasonable.
Horus's taxes wouldn't be so suffocating.
Horus would let you keep your religions.
Horus understood your people.
Horus was the righteous son against the tyrannical emperor.
You couldn't be more correct. And this is how so many saw it. So with that, his 10 other brothers fell to the various waysides. The lion Gilliman and Sanguinius were stopped by the ruin storm created by the great betrayal. Magnus broken and scattered by his brother Russ, his actions turning him to the powers of chaos and ultimately to Horus himself. The Salamanders, the Raven Guard and the Iron Hands were all broken. Vulcan, a prisoner of the sadistic Night Lord Conrad Kurz.
Oh dear.
Corvus Corax, a brother in exile, trying his very best to rebuild his legion, being foiled time and again. Their companion Ferrus Manus, dead, merely a skull held by Fulgrim, which he lamented to. Alas, poor Ferrus, I knew you well. Rogel Dawn, cursed with the task of turning Terra from a glorious golden palace into little more than a steel bunker.
Oh, he must not have been happy about that.
Jagatai came from the edges of the galaxy to see his brothers killing one another,
Oh my.
their sons butchering one another. Each of them failed in their own way. Jagatai's half-heartedness could have saved many lives, but in the end he fought on Terra itself, fighting for the Emperor. No doubt Rogel Dawn cursed himself over and over again. Why did I not believe Garviel Loken? Why did I not do something sooner? Ferrus Manus, if he could have a thought, was probably thinking, I shouldn't have been so enraged. I should have thought things out. We had time. Corvus Corax must have cursed his brothers and how they foiled his legion time and again. But most of all, he must have cursed himself for following Horus's orders in the first place. His orders which got so many of his sons killed. Vulcan would not repudiate himself for his actions because he saw them as good and just. But we know that this galaxy, the Warhammer 40,000 galaxy, is not a just galaxy. It is not a humane galaxy. No. If he had have listened to cold logic and reason instead of charging headlong into Horus's men, perhaps the Salamanders would be more than just a chapter today. Russ himself almost slew Horus before he reached Terra, but he hesitated because he saw the man that Horus was still in there.
Oh.
But then the powers of chaos took hold once more. And then Horus was gone.
No!
Only the War Master.
Was so close.
Gilliman, obsessed with his empire building, looked to preserve what remained rather than seeing that if he had have pushed, if he had have gone beyond where he was, perhaps he could have saved the Imperium that was. Perhaps he could have saved the Emperor himself. But no, the Ultramarines will forever be failures because he wished to preserve rather than save.
He wished to gain control over the situation with his own hands.
The Lion, seeing how petty politicking got Horus into this position in the first place, decided to trust the one brother he thought simply did his job without vanity, the one brother he saw that was like himself, that would do the job without complaint. He trusted Perturabo and gave him massive siege weapons for the assault on Terra.
Uh-oh.
For they were used on the assault on Terra, just not on the side he expected.
He must have felt so betrayed.
So foolish.
So optimistic, I'd say.
Which leads to our final son, the one that died at the hands of Horus.
Sanguinius.
Sanguinius was the only son that didn't truly fail. He did exactly what he was meant to do, what his visions showed him to do. He failed with his words. He failed with his steel. He failed with everything but his blood, which allowed a chink in the armor. The Angel of Blood lived up to his name. His blood, his body changed Horus. Something went wrong inside of him. Was it physical? Was it mental? Was it literally a chink in his armor? We do not know. What we do know is this gave the Emperor the steel he needed to fight Horus. Before, he was his chosen son. Now he was the betrayer, the chosen of the arch enemy. Chaos.
Now there is no sun. There is only the enemy.
Their clash was titanic. That of the Greek gods, the legends of Thor, the myths of Egypt, none of those could compare to what was happening above Earth, above Terra.
The fight between the self-styled Emperor of Man and the Chosen of Chaos.
In the end, the Emperor used an attack so brutal and complete that it wiped Horus's soul from the very existence of the galaxy.
Oh my gosh.
With their father dead, the Black Legion left the field and fled to the Eye of Terror. Whatever they were before, they were no longer the sons of Horus. Horus was dead, and they must flee for their lives. The other legions cursing them on the way, saying what cowards they were to leave the battlefield so quickly. And so the sons of Horus ended with a whimper.
This is the way the world ends. This is the way the world ends. This is the way the world ends. Not with a bang, but with a whimper.
Well, I realised that I got pretty caught up in that because I didn't tell the Ezekiel Abaddon story.
Oh no!
We're going to have to leave that for the Black Legion. But yeah, what did you think of that story?
I think this story is a lesson in poor communication and eternal regrets.
Yeah.
And I feel like the part that really got to me, that made me really angry, was when you said, Dawn, when he went, oh, why didn't I listen to Gaviel? And I'm like, why didn't you? You know, I wanted to say the B word.
But as you can imagine, as the crusade went on, slowly his brothers, along with his legion, slowly degraded from being those professional soldiers into being little more than marauders. So, design versus lore-wise, is there anything else I can let you in on?
Honestly, that's such a story so tragic, I have forgotten everything already with the design. So I'll need to recollect my thoughts. Yes, so they looked a lot more like brigands. They didn't look like professional soldiers as much as they looked more like thugs. So I would say it does fit the story in terms of how they approached the issue. And, you know, it was just them trying to take control over the Imperium and trying to put their vision onto the Imperium. Although their tactics might have been very brutish, I think they saw themselves as righteous.
Yeah. yeah, that's
And
a fair way of seeing things.
a lot of people also saw them as righteous. And I think that part didn't quite come through with the design.
Well, I think that their true intentions came through rather than how they saw themselves. It showed the reality of what they really were.
But I feel that if Horus was the one that was designing this legion and that's how he thought of things, I feel like he would have tried to show that more.
Well, remember, a fish rots from the head down. He gave the orders to change things, but of course each of those individual men would have followed by example rather than by whatever his command or fiat was.
Okay.
So, with all of this said, shall we move on to
Final notes.
In almost every episode, I ask you, do you feel now that you've heard the story, you've seen the design, you have a good grasp on who the Sons of Horus were?
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned earlier, they were the crusaders, in a way. They were the ones who were coming out to try and change the Imperium for the better, the vision that they thought the Imperium should have followed. And there was, like you said, many people who agreed with who Horus was. He was the diplomat. He would listen. There would be more kindness, more warmth in the Imperium.
But let's just remember, that isn't who Horus was.
That
was merely his face.
Alrighto. Yeah. So, as you explained earlier, I guess because his true intentions came through, because we always talk about how you don't judge a person by their intentions. You can imply their intentions purely through their actions, right? Some of the times, people show their true colors without realizing.
If you are ever confused as to who somebody is, just look at their actions and look at the results of their actions. That will tell you exactly who they are.
And I think that is what has translated into this design. And in that sense, it is successful.
So before we go on, I want to let people into a bit of our lives. The way that we started out was with you appreciating my art.
Yeah, and when I saw your minis, I saw, okay, these are so incredibly small, but they're also so incredibly detailed in the way that you painted them.
I think you didn't realize how small they were until
You showed me the picture of your thumb next to one of them.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, how did you do that? Right? And I thought to myself that someone painting minis could probably produce lots of glob marines, right? If they were to do something like this. But you didn't do that. You put so much effort into it. And through that, I saw someone who put so much care into their work, into art, into their passion. And I thought, if someone can put that much effort into plastic minis, imagine how much effort they would put into people. And that's why I liked you very much.
So with that said, would you like to introduce our new section, which is only ever going to be in this video? God, I hope it remains in this video. Art appreciation. So with this section, what I wanted to do was appreciate the art being shown rather than doing a breakdown. Of course, we will comment on various elements, but I wanted us to appreciate the art of Warhammer 40,000 and particularly this period of time, because this is what gets so many people into this game. So, why don't you comment on the evolution of Horus Lupercal?
So this was done by Elijah R. Priest, and it shows his level of talent here. I mean, there's so much detail.
He's done so much stuff that we have shown over our time, and it's always been amazing.
Yeah, and there's so much detail to enjoy here. You can see, Horus starts out with that politician face. I wouldn't call him like happy. It does look very plastered smile kind of look, right? And then
oh, you know what? I just noticed with what you said, he doesn't have the smile in the eyes as much, does he? No,
just
you're right.
Hello, hi, yes.
He's doing the Queen wave.
Yeah, the
from
Queen
back
wave,
in the day,
but with just his face.
Yeah.
And in the second one, you really see who he is. That passion in the face, that anger, right? But it's not very angry. It's like a righteous anger.
Yes, I was about to say righteous, yeah, and then you said it yourself. I was like, yeah.
finally you have him at the end, and he just looks a bit confused, but he's so very lost. You know, there's nothing left there. His eyes aren't even there. It's just a glow of yellow, you know, and he's just like, cancer.
He does seem like a shadow of his former self. Yeah.
And I think that really shows exactly like how he sort of slowly degraded into that. And yeah, I kind of just wanted him to stay in the green section. Just stay put there. But I think that just seeing the evolution is the tragedy of it all, right? Like, you just wish Horus stayed put. You just wished for him to stay put just looking at this. But that's not the case. That's not reality.
When you describe it now, and when I look at it, I get this dreadful, awful feeling. You see someone hiding who he was, and then you see him come and he feels so alive. Look how much more redness there is in his cheeks. Look how much more flushed he is. How much more alive he is.
He's more colored.
Yeah.
And you see the laurels in his head as well.
Yeah. And he feels so alive and passionate, and by the end, he looks like a corpse. And he's not far off from being one. Going along that theme, I wanted to show you this. Good Horus.
Oh, yeah. Good Horus. Very smug Horus.
Well, this is how it's described by the artist.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, he doesn't look very imperial like he did in the first one, did he? Because he's not wearing that full suit of armor.
No.
He's just got like chainmail, tabard, cape, you know, humble-looking boots, things like that. Much more warrior-esque. He's got that white pelt of a wolf at the back. And he just looks kind of arrogant, honestly, with that pose and that face.
Well, I think if he was in something more akin to a techno-barbarian getup, because this seems just straight up medieval, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
If he was in a more technological getup, I think he'd feel a lot more like who he was, just a ganger.
Yeah, because this doesn't really feel like ganger, does it?
No, but only because of the clothes. The
Yeah, the
attitude
clothes.
is 100% there, yeah.
You just need a cigarette. Right there. That'll fit, yeah. A fedora, maybe.
Oh, I'm pretty sure that the fedora's for the emperor.
And then he's got to have rings on every finger.
All right, let's move on. And after this, we have Evil Horus.
Yeah, and you can see that from his pose already, and that underlighting of that red flame coming into play. I feel like this is more him than the first one.
I don't know about that. I think this shows his transformation. It doesn't show him fully embracing chaos yet, but it shows him looking towards the emperor as a tyrant and looking towards himself as the solution. He's
Yes.
like, I know how things are here. But once again, it feels like it's too medieval.
Yeah. I would say so. It's just like the previous version, but just make it more black.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, yes, I am the solution.
Yeah. But often these artworks are shown together side by side, and you can see why, because one is left facing, one is right facing, and so on. But I think that they're a great piece, and I wanted to show them along with the evolution of Horus.
Yes.
So this next piece is called Love His Hate, but I almost didn't want to give the title. I just wanted you to comment on it. So could you please?
I think there's a lot of symbolism here, but I don't want to go deep dive into that too much.
Go for it.
Well, I mean, look, he's got his claw coming out from the face, and the emperor has his eyes closed, and it shows the sort of quote-unquote naivete of the emperor. He does not see his own son coming in to backstab. And I think he's just got his clawed hand out there. He's within his grasp, you know? It's just, I'm so close to defeating you, father.
Well, I also think it shows the juxtaposition between the two. Horus is post-human. Look, he is not human anymore. You take a look at him, and he is almost completely mechanical when you look at him. And he's powered by that red. And we see red on both of them. But on the Emperor, it looks like the robe of Jesus. It looks like his blood-soaked clothing. And we see that with the crown of thorns.
Yeah.
We see him as if he is a savior figure.
Yeah.
And
that is not how Horus sees him.
No.
No, but he is posed to seem like the devil.
Yes. Well, I think let's move on to the next piece of art.
Yeah.
Now, you should recognize this piece of
Yeah,
art.
it's Adrian Smith, and this is
Horus versus the Emperor.
Yeah.
In fact, I've got quite a few of these lined up for you because I want to show it over the ages, because this is our very first depiction of what Horus versus the Emperor looked like.
Yeah, and you can see how large his face is. Horus's head is just the thing that your eye catches the most. And you don't even see Sanguinius lying down there, right? Your eye only focuses on Horus and the Emperor, who is posed to come to stab him, come to kill his own son. And there's a lot of passion and in his pose, the Emperor's pose, where we're very used to seeing him very cold.
But I think the other thing that makes this feel so grand is we see the moon in the background and ships fighting one another, and it just feels so monumental. It feels so epic. It feels like something that has come from myth.
Yeah, exactly. And I think symbolism-wise, it kind of is a nod back to him being the lunar wolf, right? The moon in the background. And it's just like, look at the moon, who I was, light years away. And this is where I am now.
Well, not light years away, but yeah.
I don't know how the distance is, but yeah.
And then let's look upon the exact same piece of artwork from the exact same artist, except now he's improved somewhat, I might say.
Improved. Oh my. I mean, look at this. This is the iconic Warhammer 40k
This
artwork.
is Jesus and the Virgin Mary combined. This is the picture that everybody knows, Warhammer 4.
Yeah, and you can see Horus in the back there just like, I have killed my brother, father. Come at me if you dare. And he's just posed there with his halo there. Yeah, I'm coming for you, son, sort of thing.
And like you said, the Emperor looks very cold in this picture by comparison. You see Sanguinius dead on the ground, and he seems the most human of all of these people, despite being a mutant.
Yeah, and it's such a highly detailed artwork. It feels biblical.
Yes.
Yes, and I was very sort of confused by that. When I first saw this artwork, I was like, wow, this doesn't really feel sci-fi.
No, you were like, I don't remember this Bible verse.
Yeah, I was just like, oh my gosh, what extravagant armor, and like, who can fight in something like this? And
Yes, this is
other.
why 40k is not sci-fi. It is a space opera.
Yeah, and we talk about that in a video, but we haven't released it yet. And yeah, let's move on to the next one.
Well, I have to warn you, it's more of the same.
Oh, really?
Once again, this is Horus versus the Emperor, and I want to get your commentary on this because I think this is the first time you've seen this one.
Oh, no, I've actually seen this artwork before.
Oh, have you?
Yes, and for this one, you can see how Horus is just like, yeah, like see, Dad, you can't fight me kind of thing.
It looks like he's seething.
He's seething.
It doesn't look as if he's truly a person. It looks like he's possessed here.
He does, especially because his eyes are completely whited out. But you see how the claws of the Emperor are gleaming. All of his gold is shining, right? And you have feathers coming in from below. And it just shows him as like the righteous savior that's about to say, kill his son. And you can see the passion in his face.
Yes, you certainly can. But
So I feel like this is a combination of the first two Adrian Smith artworks, because you've got the passion of the Emperor from the first.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And the detail and atmosphere from the second.
Yeah, no, I can see why you think that. But we've got one more.
Oh, yeah.
As far as I know, this is the most modern interpretation of that fight. And I have to say, it's my least favorite of all of them. I think it's a very good piece, but I think compared to the second artwork, I think the second artwork is peak. What do you think of this one?
I think this is the other side of that story, where he delivers the killing blow. And I think in that sense, I like it, because now I have a visual of exactly how Horus died. Because all of that was just a build-up. All those previous artworks were a build-up to getting rid of Horus. But now we actually see the Emperor killing Horus. So from that perspective, I quite like it.
Alright, but there's one more piece I wanted to show you, which isn't an artwork, but it also is.
Oh, yeah?
I think this is perhaps one of the most beautiful dioramas I have ever seen.
Oh, definitely. I mean, look how dark everything is. Only the light of the Emperor's flaming sword is the one that's lighting everything here. And it really shows how, you have Horus in the corner there. He's just killed his brother. Sanguinius is just lying dead there, lifeless, just sprawled. And he doesn't look like an angel anymore.
No.
Just a corpse,
He looks like a man, a fallen man.
A fallen man. And here comes the father coming to kill his other son.
Coming to avenge his son.
Cal, I think that's all I can take.
Sonny, that's all that I have.
Okay, good.
Shall we move on to
Post-Heresy?
All right, Sonny, do you need a minute to breathe before we go on? Or
None. I think I can do this.
All right, I wanted to start you off with a more modern guy, so here you go.
Oh, and of course, we have the classic bad guy color scheme, black and red, but we have some very strong gold trims here. The black used is that pitch black that we saw with their Luna Wolves design, and that makes them look like a shadow of a person. It also makes the red and golds really pop. I think from a psychological standpoint, it shows how they've become a shadow of what they once were.
Interesting.
Yeah, completely consumed by darkness, and there is no coming back from it. They are irredeemable.
An interesting point of view, but please go on.
As for symbols, we have the 8 spokes of chaos, showing them to be undivided and not loyal to any one god. And ironically, they're very clean for a chaos faction.
Yeah, that's true enough.
But I also suppose with how iconic the Black Legion is, they are like the templates of the chaos world, and they can't be too noisy in design.
Yeah, a lot of people have called them the Ultramarines of Chaos.
Yeah, I wanted to say that, but yeah, I think you get what I'm saying. So plus, it makes painting easier, but we all know in retrospect that's not true.
Oh no, painting chaos is never easy. Those trims are always such a pain. Next up, it's one of the newer art styles, but not the newest art style. It's one of the styles that you sometimes disparagingly call the Preheresy Art style.
Oh, yeah, I remember. Okay, I have seen this pattern of armor before with certain other legions, and oftentimes it's more of a steel color. Here, I would say the black is not as intense as the previous, but the elements are very effective.
Would you say that they're very effective because it's more of that reflective black rather than the Vanta black that we were talking about?
No, not in that sense, but it's more menacing than the other legions with this armor because they have the spikes on the helmet with no plume and the sharp mandible-like shapes coming down on the mouth paired with those searing red eyes. It really makes him feel monstrous, and of course you have the spoke motifs all across the armor to bring in those classic chaos trims to show hostility. Like with 1,000 Suns, we don't see a very obvious amount of asymmetry here, which suggests that they don't give themselves up to the gods to warp them as they please. But also from a practical standpoint, if they are chaos undivided, there has to be a sense of equilibrium. So yeah, I feel like even after turning chaos, it seems Horus is still playing face game here.
Sorry, that just took it took me a second to process that because I'm like still playing. Oh, because he can't be devoted to any one god.
He has to satisfy everybody.
Yeah, it's just like, no, Zinch, of course you're my favorite. No, Korn, I love blood. Slanesh, the pleasure, always the pleasure. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, and that's what I get with this sort of design.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, no, because for a second there I was like, what? What are you saying?
Shall we move on to the next one?
Sure. So next I wanted to show you one of those more classic art styles.
Whoa, this is the most high fashion chaos marine I ever saw one. Yeah, watch out, Blood Angels, they're coming for you.
Dante.
Sashay away. Yes. We are back to using that pitch black color for the armor, and Cal, let's take a look at this marine zoomed out.
All right, let's zoom it out, Larry. Let's take a look at him.
Those red eyes are just piercing into your soul from a distance, and all you see is the silhouette of his shape. He looks like a classic demon, especially with those tall horns.
Yeah, you know what? I think you're right.
Yeah, and horns are a symbol of defiance as well, and when we see them in the pagan context, it is reminiscent of the devil.
Let me check with the line judges.
Oh.
They agree.
Yes, correct. Which they have really pulled off that look 100%. I do find the Chaos Undivided symbol across his armor visually interesting and unique, but but I do feel that maybe it would be more effective without it because it does look a little like one of those bows that you put on your Christmas present. Yeah.
I'm your present
Oh,
tonight.
no.
Oh no. I'm such a naughty boy. I'm such a chaos boy.
Wow.
Look out. No one's going to capture my heart.
no.
Only you.
Yes, only me.
Actually, I think I should try a different voice, maybe. Only you can capture my heart, baby. Just so you know, if you ask for this, I cannot put that bow on in that way, and I certainly cannot stay long enough for you to...
Are still family friendly. Okay, we're still family friendly here. Okay, I can tell that they're using this as a point of asymmetry, but I think it does ruin the evil and dangerous vibe a bit. What do you think?
I guess you're right in that sense that he feels very high fashion, but I really like it. I think that it's very fun.
It's fun, yeah, like I said, like I really like it. It's very interesting, but it doesn't have that evil look anymore because it's too flashy.
I think it can, but I think that...
Maybe if it were red.
No, I think that the gold does work, but I think that the problem is that, like you said, it does seem very high fashion. But let us move on to the next guy, shall we? So with this next guy, once again, he's one of those more classic artworks.
With this Terminator, the eyes and inverted tusks and 2 spikes above the helmet make him look so incredibly predatory, like a saber-toothed puma or something.
It's saber-toothed puma.
Yeah!
Don't you mean a saber-toothed tiger?
No, saber-toothed puma, because he's all black like a puma.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, there's that hunger in his eyes. And again, I'm very impressed with these Black Legion designs because they actually feel like a primordial evil faction. Other chaos...
I'm sorry, all I can think about is 80s songs after you described him that way. I was thinking about, the eye of the tiger.
Okay, come on. We gotta focus, Cal. We gotta focus, all right? So, other chaos factions have not given me the same level of visceral reaction as this. And I think it shows how well put together and planned this Legion is, from the color choice to the shape design. It is truly just chef's kiss.
The thing that you have to remember with these guys is essentially they are the Ultramarines of Chaos. You have to have them really well designed because they're going to be the Chaos poster boys.
Yes, correct. They're going to be the template. And I also like the use of silvery white trims here. I think it's more effective than all that bright gold because, number one, it's like an inversion of how they started.
Right. Yeah. No, I see what you're saying there.
From white with black accents to now black with white accents.
Which is a very different message they're sending.
Yes, correct. And number two, they have a less pretentious air about them. The gold felt a little too loud. This brings your attention more onto the black and the negative spaces, which for a Legion that's all about black, I think that should be the focus.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and it does disappoint me because I wish the other Chaos Marines had more put into their design after seeing these guys.
Okay, all right. Well, let's move on. This is the final guy I wanted to show you before I went on to showing you 4 guys again, and we know what happens every time I show you 4 guys. You just say, I don't want to look at them anymore. So here's our final guy. He's not quite a template. He's not quite an artwork, but I wanted to show him to you.
This guy is basically Marine number 2, but with horns. I do like the emphasis on the inverted grill being a steel because it looks like sharp teeth paired with those angry red eyes staring you down. The pose and the expression, it all makes you feel like you want to avoid him at all costs. Just turn around and walk away.
Well, maybe run away, but the other thing is he does have that vision, like you said, of a classic demon.
Yes, correct. And I think this communicates very well.
All right, Sonny, here's the 4 guys all together, and we know how you go. You go, oh, I'm going to analyze them all together. I'm not actually going to look at things. All right, let's just skip over them. I know how you are.
These guys look very different from each other, Cal.
No, I don't see how.
Yeah. In fact, this first guy looks just like the World Eater fella, but turned black and gold.
Oh, not possible.
And the second guy looks a lot like a Nurgle guy. The third one is... Wait, I think that's an Emperor's Children, and the last one is Thousand Sons. Why is there Black Legion versions of all of these guys?
Do you want me to tell you?
Yes.
Are you going to analyze them?
Maybe.
All right, I'm going to give you a bit of design versus lore, and I really like this part of them, and you may remember it from one Alpha Legion transformation kill team I did.
Oh, yeah, they do accept people from everywhere.
Yes, they do.
So that also includes other Chaos factions.
Exactly.
Yeah, I should have guessed, especially because they're Chaos Undivided and all that.
Yep. So they will accept anyone from any faction so long as they pledge loyalty to the Black Legion and to Abaddon.
Oh, okay. But I will say one thing. When I look at all of these versions of the other Chaos factions in Black Legion design, they all feel so much more chaotic.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like they look more menacing, but that's probably because of the large use of black. And I think there was times in the other videos where I said that the factions just don't feel chaos enough. Maybe because they're too colorful or, very noisy. And once you turn them Black Legion...
Well, I think when you take a look, especially at the Khorne and especially at the Thousand Suns one, they look a lot more professional, which makes them feel so much more dangerous.
Yes, and that's what I liked about it, because I was a bit upset with the previous video when we did the Thousand Suns and they were just blue, yellow, white, gold. I said that's too positive for them. But looking at this, I'm like, yeah, I wish this was it.
Well, there's something I want to show you, and I don't think it's design versus lore yet, but there's a whole lot of art that I got for this exact concept.
Ooh.
So shall we move on to art? This may as well be called the Elijah R. Priest Hour, and these weren't artworks that I intended to show you. In fact, I've got a few in a different section, but because you were talking about, oh, look at this, and how you were intrigued by that concept. So I wanted to show you the members of the Ezekarion. Now, there's a bit of lore to that, and I'm not going to get into that, but I just want you to take a look at these artworks, and not necessarily break them down, but just show them off and give you comments.
Yes, so this guy is called Ashurkai Kezrama, and he looks a lot like Iskandar.
You know, the way that just rolls off your tongue, just I'm like, I'm terrible at this.
But I love it because look at all the nice Egyptian details, especially the one at the top and the little wing flaps thing. And I look at a lot of his artworks, and I look at my redesigns, and I'm like, I want to do that. But, I don't have as much time as, he's put into such detail work, like God knows how many hours he goes into making
I
these.
certainly hope that he is paid for this work, because if he is not, that's criminal.
Sure. Well, maybe he's done it for his own portfolio, because, artists have to do that.
That's true, maybe. I'm not sure.
Well, let's look at the next guy. Hey, it's Iskandar. He did make it into 40K.
Yeah, for some reason I confused him with Menos, even though his name is up there on the artwork. I don't know how I did this.
It's alright, but you already know my thoughts on this guy. We shared it in the Thousand Suns. And
We'll just give a little of your thoughts for the people who haven't watched that.
I really like how they've incorporated certain symbolisms, like the actual Eye of Horus.
Yeah, the actual
40K,
Eye of Horus, yeah.
in his belt there, and of course the Anubis heads in the backpack and all that, right? And I remember reading a comment from the Thousand Suns video where they say he's not very keen on some people making it just like Egyptian space marines.
Yeah.
Because it's meant to be, Prospero is Egyptian inspired, not ancient Egypt in 40K.
Yeah, but I mean, like, he's still in his power armor and everything else. I don't see how people are like, oh, it's just Egypt in space. It's not.
I do understand where he was coming from. I just felt like I think
this is perfect.
It's just perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, but I'm also a geek for Egypt, so I'm very biased.
No, but I do think it's the perfect fit. I mean, you see how they've incorporated both 40K elements, for example, the 40K Eye of Horus, and then the Egyptian Eye of Horus. And that's perfect.
Yeah, there's such symbolism and correlation there. I think this is the perfect legion, in the sense that 1,000 Suns are the perfect legion to show that off as well.
And here's your next guy.
Who this guy? Fulcus Kibber.
Well, he's actually pretty foundational when it comes to the founding of the Black Legion,
really?
but I'm not going to get into that right now.
Oh my god, but look at the horns are coming out of his eyes.
Yep.
Yeah, and and look at the mouth. The mouth opening up on the side. Maybe this could be the Nurgle.
He's not the Nurgle guy, no.
Oh, he's not the Nurgle guy. Oh, that's quite confusing because these are quite common Nurgle elements that you can see, especially when it comes to the mouth opening up near the tummy.
But I think this is meant to represent more of his pure fall to chaos. He is completely enthralled to the chaos gods. You can see how he looks possessed completely.
Yeah, and you don't see any of the structure of the Space Marine suit as much anymore, like with the top of the helmet. It's just completely rounded out. It looks like a cave with a mouth opening up.
Yeah.
And you have all those organic lines and folds coming at the leg area, and you have these random sort of wrinkles. It's almost like the organic is merging with the mechanical, and that's so wonderful. And you can see little demon mouths popping up here and there, and that really shows the chaos force coming into play.
Here's your next one.
Liorvin Ukris.
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce things. I don't know why you're looking to me for
Well,
pronunciation.
you're the 40k expert here, but yeah, look at his expression. He's so pleased with himself.
He is so pleased with himself.
Classic Korn, man. He's just like, I mean, look at that pose. I'm just like, yeah, look at me. Yeah, I'm
I
gonna
love
kill
how
all
he balances the skulls on the head. You know,
Oh,
he's got
yeah.
and
Oh,
like,
the end bits. Oh, it's
and
so
it looks
funny.
as if he's just glued them down. He's like,
Yeah, I know, right? Like,
oh, that works.
yeah, I know. And I feel like it feels a little orcish in that sense. Like it's a
Oh,
little
okay.
silly, but
Yeah.
I really love it. I mean, look at the pose, look at the asymmetry in the two different legs. And yeah, I think this is a wonderful posing and
But
showing off
he's
of a
so
Korn
different
guy.
to the guy we saw before. He's just like, I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah, no, I'm just happy to be killing people.
Yeah. Can we kill some more people? That
Yeah.
sounds like a good idea.
That's my job.
Listen. I know that you guys have important business, but have we considered killing people?
Have we considered more skulls and more blood for
Yeah.
the throne? Because if we haven't done my quota is not met yet, guys.
All right, let's move on to the next guy. And this one is one of my favorites because it merges the Emperor's Children so well.
It's so incredibly beautiful. Look at the trims.
Oh yeah,
You
they're
have
so ornate.
so ornate and filigree, and the face of this guy is very much pretty boy. And I think that what he has done very well, Elijah, here, is that really showcasing of how these Marines look a lot like their Primarchs, and that it shows exactly where they come from as well. But some of the elements that I really love are the two hands on his boobs. Yeah. No, I mean, it shows very much that sort of torture of digging into the flesh.
And I think that is actually somebody, because you see that person on the backpack.
Yeah,
I
the
don't
head.
know. I don't know, but I
Maybe
think
it's
that
a merge
person
of a-
is incorporated into
Yeah,
his armor.
maybe like some sort of a demonette or a Slanesh demon is
Or
incorporated.
it's an actual person who they want to have being tortured forever.
Yeah, and you can see how the wires are actually protruding out of the head from within under the skin. And I really love the incorporation of the talons at the base of the feet.
Yeah.
You know, it's a nod back to the Phoenix, the Phoenician sort of style. And look at the skull that's on his belt, right? It's not a skull. It's like one of those shrunken heads. You know, it's a guy who's patched together and sewn together. It really shows off that torture element.
Yeah.
I'm ready for the next one.
Okay, all right. After that, I felt like you were going to keep going forever.
I could, but we don't have
that's
time.
fair. All right, let's go to the next one.
Yes, it is a word bearer guy.
Yes.
I can tell by the face.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, and I mean, look at him. He's just so matter of fact. His face is so still. In fact, he does have a little bit of an Egyptian look just because of all that eyeliner.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think that's more sort of the Hollywood version of the Egyptians.
Yeah, and you know, it feels very cult-like with the way that he
Oh, yeah, of
looks with
course,
the
word bearers, you
robes
know.
and the tattoos all over. And I think this really showcases them. You know, something that's quite funny is that you have a lot more whites being shown here because of the robes. But I think it's very fitting, again, a nice merge between the Black Legion and where they actually come from. And he has a lot of that priestly look about him, but it's very desaturated, that it looks like it's fitting for chaos, right? Because I've talked about how I didn't like a lot of the white elements when it came to the Thousand Suns, but here it works.
I'm going to take this moment while you're catching your breath to skip to the next guy, because otherwise we're going to be here forever.
Fair enough.
So I want to get us back on track with the first art that I actually wanted to show you, and I think it's a really important piece of art. So let's hear your commentary and let's hear your breakdown.
This looks like a classic John Blanche Oldhammer piece.
Yeah, well, you're right.
We've got to remember that the Oldhammer style has a very particular tone that it almost always sets. The colors are always bright and saturated, but the elements and activities that happen within the picture can be grimdark. And it shows the vigor and hyperactivity that happens in the thralls of war.
Yeah.
Right? With this piece, the background is completely set ablaze, all but where this marine stands. There's also skulls on the rocks by his feet, but the overall piece feels alive and fun, especially with that random bat flying behind him. Which is probably a spooky element to add to the piece to go with the demonic-looking marine. So, yeah, I think that's what this is pretty much about, because it's very much a bit more marketable image.
Yeah,
You know?
actually, I'm going to get into that a bit.
Okay.
So this is something for you and for the audience. You know how we always do redesigns?
Yeah.
You know what the Space Marines are?
What are they?
They are a redesign of the Chaos Warrior.
Huh? Really?
Yeah, the old fantasy Chaos Warrior is what they used as the template to make the Space Marines.
Oh, okay. All right.
So this piece of art right here represents that transition from Warhammer Fantasy to Warhammer 40k.
Yeah. You know, that makes a lot of sense with the horns, with the skull in the middle, because that's a classic fantasy thing where they have the horns go up and then it combines to a little ball at the top.
Yep.
So that is very classic, that comes from the fantasy part. Yeah, I can see that now.
Yeah. But even the Loyalist Marines came from that Chaos Warrior design. So they essentially smoothed out the Chaos Warrior design, and that was our Space Marines.
Oh, wow. Okay, that makes a lot of sense then.
So for those of you in the Warhammer community who go, well, whatever, redesigns, this is why it's so important, because this is where Warhammer 40,000 was born from. It was born from a redesign.
Right. Oh, yeah. Before you get too excited, Cal,
Yeah, what?
shall we move on to the next piece?
Oh, fine, here's your next piece.
Oh, the colors in this piece look very much like one of those hand-painted 80s/90s horror movie posters.
Yeah, well, I do believe that this artwork itself came out in the 90s.
Oh, yeah, that it gets that feeling. So it's very dynamic and yet desaturated. The most saturated parts are the red tones used in this piece. So the artist brings your attention to the sky and the main marine at the top of the hill of bodies. Guessing by his look, I'm very sure he is demon-possessed.
He's a demon prince, in fact.
Oh, is he?
Yep.
Oh, nice. Okay. And with the background, you can see just how powerful they are as a legion, because there is no one here in this painting but them and the victims they have left behind. It's a complete desecration of the place. Normally, we see Chaos fighting some other faction, but here there is no other faction. It's just them and what they have done. And you can see from the fog and the background showing the settling of the dust from what they have wrought.
Indeed. Well, I think you pretty much said it all. There's not much that I can really add to this. So shall we move on to the next piece?
Yeah. I feel like there's some horror or sci-fi movie somewhere where this guy's the main villain and he kind of talks like Skeletor. Like, you have come once again, Cal. I see. But this is the kind of thing that's scary about 40k, the level of body modification or how much a person gives themselves up to the machine or the forces around them.
That was the complete opposite of what I wanted to show here, because you take a look at it, that's a mask, that's part of his helmet.
No.
Yes, look, take a proper look and you'll see that's part of his helmet. And I wanted to show that there's levels of variation when it comes to the chaos. Not all of them are completely demon possessed. Do you remember when I showed you Iskander Kaon?
Yeah,
okay.
Not like demon possessed, but like look at his mouth, right? His flesh where his mouth should be.
It's not a mouth, it's the mask.
I don't know. It looks like the flesh of the mouth has completely degraded and it's just a skull.
I understand, but that's part of his getup.
Okay. Well, the thing is, I've seen similar artworks with the iron hands, right? It seems to be like a repetitive thing where the jaw is completely removed or the mouth is just gone.
I understand, but here it is part of his...
Okay, sure. See, the thing is with this, right? The fact that you've sort of removed the mouth here shows how you can't tell his expression.
No, you can't tell his expression.
You can't tell his intentions, and I think that's exactly why this works. He's just not a person anymore.
Yeah, he feels very scary in that sense, but the reason I wanted to show this is to show that they're not all completely lost to chaos. You know, that some of them retain their humanity, but they still hate the Imperium.
Yeah.
And here is your final piece of art, and the reason I wanted to show you this is it was one of the most modern pieces of art.
Yeah, I've seen this before. This is the classic artwork of Abaddon, right?
Well, I wouldn't call it classic because it only came out for the Magic the Card game.
Oh, is it? Because
Yeah.
I actually relate the Black Legion to this artwork because I thought this was very popular.
Yeah, well, it's recent enough that you've seen it a lot, I guess.
Right, and take a look at... But he is Abaddon, right?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
but take a look at the way Abaddon is posed. He's got his clawed hand onto the side and he's just victoriously throwing his sword up into the air, right? And that's the pose of a leader, but he doesn't feel sort of evil in the pose, right? He looks like that righteous guy that we see from the Sons of Horus.
All right.
So that's the...
What does that tell you about him then?
I think he's probably just using chaos as his backbone, but his intentions are still the same. His goals are still the same. I still want to get rid of the Imperium, and here is my army who will work with me. I don't have to care about the politics, yada yada, because it's chaos. Chaos will just do what I need it to do.
Well, you know what? You're six one way, half a dozen the
Oh,
other,
really?
because you almost had it. You almost had it.
Okay.
But yeah. So shall we move on to
Design versus law?
There is a line that history does not repeat itself, but it certainly rhymes. We see this in the story of Ezekiel Abaddon. Ezekiel Abaddon was the first captain of the Sons of Horus, of the Lunar Wolves, and ultimately the leader of the Black Legion. During this time, he could only be described as happy during one of those moments, when he was captain of the Lunar Wolves.
Why is that?
Because Ezekiel didn't realize this yet, not until the siege on Terra. But there was one thing that Ezekiel wanted above all else: to be a warrior. After killing his brother of the Mournival, things started going downhill. Of course, there were successes, but as time went on, there was more and more politicking. As time went on, he saw his father lose himself to the powers of chaos more and more, and he felt a certain ennui, a general malaise of a lack of purpose. But he found it during one of Rogel Dawn's traps. Forced to fight and fight, he finally realized who he was, what he was, and what he wanted to be: a warrior. That is who he was, and that is who he should have always been. And that is who he could be here in this moment. But the moment he was out of this, he knew that things were wrong. Could he articulate this? Of course he couldn't. But history is always written by the victors. We never see things from the loser's eyes. Ezekiel Abaddon desperately fought to go to his father when he was fighting the Emperor. But he was too late. Just like Rogel Dawn, just like the Imperial forces, they were not able to reach their lords. With his Gene Father dead, with his Primarch dead, with the War Master dead, he saw his dream shattered. He saw the Imperium victorious. With this, he saw only one option: the abandonment of the siege of Terra. They must retreat if they are to live.
I see.
Their quest to be rid of the Emperor would not be without reprisals. The remaining Primarchs banded together for the Scouring.
The Scouring?
Indeed, the Imperium sought to root out all traitors, all tracers, that there was ever anyone who had opposed them.
That's going to be a big task.
Yes, but they were certainly up to it, and the traitors were broken. The two largest remaining legions, the Dark Angels and the Ultramarines, sought to purge all corruption from the Imperium. While there were others that led them, those were the ones that led the charge.
I see.
There was no organized resistance against this great scouring. In fact, the traitors fled and fled. They even fled from real space into the Eye of Terror.
Oh my gosh.
No one even thought that people could live within it.
Truly an act of desperation.
Yes, you are correct. And things would become even more desperate. Fabius Baal from the Emperor's Children had created a clone of Horus. But Ezekiel Abaddon would not have this. He would not see this perversion of his gene father. He would not allow this. And so he sought out and then slew his own father.
Oh my gosh.
With this, Abaddon swore that he would never be like his father. He would never be used by chaos. Instead, he would use chaos to see the Imperium fall. Not just the Emperor, but the Imperium itself. He would not strike at a symbol, but at the institution itself.
Yeah! Stick it to the man, Abaddon.
It's so serious up until you did that. With this done, he formed a council, the Ezekarion, with 13 members, and he would begin launching his black crusades into the heart of the Imperium to strike at the tyrant, to strike at the Imperium, to show them their folly. He is Ezekiel Abaddon, the War Master. And upon his 13th Black Crusade, he destroyed Cadia and ripped the galaxy asunder and let chaos flow throughout the galaxy. The galaxy is now torn in half due to his actions. He showed to the galaxy that he is much more than his father ever was. He tore the Imperium asunder while his father could not. And now the ranks of the Black Legion swell with every sort of traitor, not just of those from the Horus Heresy, no, from those of the chapters today. They flock to his banner. All who have turned against the Imperium swear fealty to Ezekiel Abaddon. Well, what did you think of that story?
I think in the end, after hearing what he's done, I feel, what was it all for? Because it just seems like he just wanted to prove the point that he could complete the task of getting rid of the Imperium, but it didn't exactly bring any positive change to the Imperium either.
No, it didn't. And I think that's the lesson, you know, when these cycles repeat, there is no positive change. The cycles simply repeat.
Yeah, and I think that's the true tragedy of 40K, because it started out with good intentions and then it just didn't get there.
Well, I'm not sure if I could call the Emperor's Imperium of Man well-intentioned, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah, but I think not from the Emperor's point of view, but from Horus's point of view. He saw how things truly were, and he didn't like that version of the Imperium, and he wanted a better Imperium, but they never got that better Imperium.
No, they didn't. In fact, one of the parts that I was missing out from was the reason why he turned is because he met an alien civilization that was a human civilization.
Whoa.
That had joined with Xenos, and they were thriving.
Of course they were. And, you know, there's so many stories like this that you've said to me in the past, maybe from Badab as well, where there are entire civilizations that are doing well until the Imperium puts its finger on it.
Yeah.
And then they ruin everything. They ruined everything. As per always.
This is ultimately why he turned against the Emperor, because he saw that their way was a way that didn't always lead to success. And he thought to himself, maybe I could find a better way. And that was his start down the dark path.
Which is quite sad.
Yeah. But I'll be telling you more about the Interrex in the next episode.
Okay. Well, shall we move on to
Final notes. Alright, Sonny, do you have a good feel for who the Black Legion are? And if you could give us your sort of summary of who they are.
They are who they say they are. They use chaos to fulfill their mission, to see their vision come true. But it's also them selling their souls to the devil as they go through this path. And I think when we take a look at the design, it shows that 100%. We see the darkness of the black. We see the horns. We see the red eyes. All of it just shows them to be a shadow of who they once were. It's quite ironic because they think that they are using chaos, right? That they're the masters of their story. But yet, there's nothing left of them, truly. They're just a shadow of what they once were. And it still shows how chaos has that grasp on them.
I should point out I've been nodding for a little while you've been speaking, which obviously doesn't come through in audio. But yeah, I think that you've hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, and it just shows how well thought out GW has made this Legion, and I really can't see changing them. They're honestly perfect.
So, no redesign?
No redesign.
Are you sure?
I am very sure.
Well, Sonny, there's very few Legions where we haven't done a redesign, and even the ones where we didn't do a redesign, like the Iron Warriors, we came back and actually thought of ways that we could redesign.
We did.
So I want you to be 100% certain, and I want you to tell me why we're not redesigning these guys.
Like I said earlier, with the Black Legion, they are not overcomplicated. They are exactly who they say they are. They're people who have sold their souls to the devil to see their task through. And with all of the designs that we have seen, it has shown that 100%. I think the only thing that I would change would be the Horus Heresy design, where I did mention that I think that righteousness could have come through a bit more rather than that full-on ganger styles. Just something to add on to that.
Alright, I know that I'm asking over and over, but are you absolutely sure? And the reason I say that is because they have a lot of design space. There is combined legions. They have Khorne and Thousand Sons working together. They have Death Guard and Emperor's Children working together.
Yes, but they are all under the Black Legion, and I think when I took a look at them once they had the Black Legion elements, they just fit that Chaos build so much more. And in fact, when I take a look at it from their Legion's perspective, I often felt like the Black Legion version should have been their Chaos version, because it just has that intimidation factor so much more.
Well, I will tell you that there is one group that I want you to take a look at after all of this is finished.
Okay.
Do you know one of your favourite characters? Do you remember your favourite Space Marine?
Who is my favorite Space Marine?
Huron.
No. Don't bring him into this story.
Yes,
no.
in fact, he is now known as Huron Blackheart.
Oh, okay. Let's take a look at him.
No, not yet, but later. So with that tease out of the way, I want to say thank you so very much for joining us for this. This will be our longest video ever, and do not expect the other videos to be this long with Design versus Lore.
It's only because this particular Legion has three sections.
And they are also the central characters of the Horus Heresy, and it was ultimately time for me to tell you about the Horus Heresy because I couldn't keep things hidden forever.
Yeah, I know.
So, thank you so much for spending your time with us. But time is the currency of life, and you cannot ever get it back, and you chose to spend it with us. So for that, we are thankful, as always. Keep those brushes wet. Bye-bye.
What say you, my Mournival? Garviel? I say we support WAYPN due to their unique blend of understanding design and applying that to Warhammer design and seeing if it matches the lore. Aximund? We must support WAYPN. Their no-nonsense quick explanation of color harmony and how they listened, as well as their improved audio quality, should be reason alone to support. They completely redid their color harmony video based off the feedback, and it gives even more information in a shorter time with better audio quality. Torgadon! Becoming a member, if not an elite member, is advised. They are focused and do not waste people's time. Their tutorials and explanations are focused and make sure people understand. Additionally, they're strongly engaged with the community. And you, Ezekiel? Their explanation of color psychology helps people understand design better. This helps players make their own custom forces. Not only this, but their other videos such as Understanding Verisimilitude are exceptional, for if these artisans fall, it will be a great loss. Then, by the last drop of my blood, though the stars will fall, I will see them fed. And if I cannot feed them, Father, I will see the galaxy burn. Calm down, my lord. It's only $3 for the base membership on YouTube. Why are we even having this meeting? Where's my man purse? You left them with your keys, my lord. They're with the other thing I can't find. We could use Ezekiel's ride. Volunteered once again my will.
Thank you for 25 new members.
Now we only need 25 more for WAYPN to be viable.
We needed 50 new members by the end of February to keep WAYPN viable.
Becoming a member will give you early access to our videos, including our lore videos.
That's right, we have our own series of lore videos.
And if you join as an elite member, you can get exclusive STLs.
Don't forget exclusive elite member videos.
And if you join on any tier or on the Ko-Fi, you can get access to our members-only Discord.
We would really like to keep doing this, and we can only do this with your support.
Thank you for the support you've given thus far. We're so close.
You can make a difference, and as always,
Keep those brushes wet. Bye-bye.